Mike Sando's teardrop for Aaron Rodgers from Tier 2 to Tier 3 isn't an arbitrary demotion. It's a synthesis of performance trends, age, roster fit, and projected durability. Read on for a tight, practical breakdown of why the ranking moved, what it actually means for Rodgers and the Steelers, and which indicators will prove whether this assessment is fair or overly harsh. First, what the change reflects. Tier systems aim to compress noisy quarterback performance into decision-useful buckets. Tier 2 signals a QB who can still carry teams at times and handle non-trivial passing loads. Tier 3 describes a reliable starter who needs a heavier supporting cast, run game, defense, or simplified passing volume to win. Rodgers' drop traces to a few converging facts. One, age and the athletic cliff. At 41, Rodgers is operating in a place few QBs do. Reaction speed, mobility to escape pressure, and shoulder arm durability all trend downward with age. That doesn't mean he can't play. It just means margin for error tightens. When plays break down or protection fails, older QBs suffer more negative outcomes. 2. Volume of pressure last year. You quoted 40 sacks in 2024, which is an important signal. High sack totals generally correlate with more hurried throws, forced errors, and long-term wear. The context matters. Was the pressure a result of line play, scheme, or receiver separation? Regardless, frequent pressures inflame the aging risk question. Number 3, sample performance versus upside. Rodgers' counting stats in 2024, near 3,900 yards, 28 TDs, 11 INTs, were good. Not vintage elite, but very functional given the circumstances. The rankings shift more on the expectation of consistency and ceiling. Analysts appear to be saying he's still very useful, but he's less likely to reliably be the player who single-handedly tilts a fringe playoff team into deep contention every week. That's the practical difference between Tier 2 and Tier 3. 4. Fit with the Steelers. Tiers don't sit in a vacuum. Rodgers' projection assumes the supporting cast available in Pittsburgh, offensive line quality, weapons, running game coaching scheme, and whether that cast multiplies or hides his weaknesses. If the team doesn't give him clean pockets and a manageable reads-heavy game plan, his effectiveness drops faster than a younger, more athletic passer. So what does this mean for the 2025 season and for Rodgers personally? Short answer, Rodgers is still a clear starter. Tier 3 isn't an indictment of incompetence. It's a calibrated expectation that he'll need structural support. If Pittsburgh builds around him intelligently, he can absolutely outperform that slot. But without deliberate protections, the downside risk, decreased efficiency, turnovers under pressure, and missed explosive plays becomes much more likely. Here are the tangible things Steelers coaches and front office must deliver if they want Rodgers to beat the ranking. Offensive line upgrade and scheme protection. Fewer pressures solve half the problem. Invest in interior depth, prioritize slide protections, max protect packages on key downs, and scheme quick passing to take pressure off Rodgers' aging feet. Schematic simplification with room for play action. Rodgers' veteran processing is a strength. Let him work through progressions quickly with high percentage throws early, then sprinkle play action and intermediate drops where his timing and anticipation shine. Slow developing deep concepts that require prolonged pocket time are the enemy. A real run game and complementary play caller. Tier 3 quarterbacks often win when their teams commit to a multi-dimensional attack. A consistent physical run game will shorten games and simplify third down situations for Rodgers. Receiver reliability and separation. Young or inconsistent WR play magnifies a veteran QB's exposure to pressure by stretching windows and increasing contested catches. Get workable separation and reliable chain movers. Conservative risk management. Minimize negative turnover scripts for Rodgers. Situational play calling that avoids forcing long downfield attempts on early downs can preserve efficiency. What metrics should we watch early to judge if Rodgers belongs in Tier 3 or whether he can resurrect Tier 2 status? Pressure rate and clean pocket time. If pressure rate drops and Rodgers sees more clean pockets, that's a major positive sign. Time to throw, TTT. And average depth of target, ADOT. Lower TTT with consistent ADOT indicates Rodgers can operate the offense without needing to heave risky long balls. Turnover rate and interception percentage. Rodgers' still famous ball placement matters. Interceptions rising early is a bad sign. Explosive play rate, 20-plus yard gains, and third down conversion rate. Improvement here signals Rodgers is creating or benefiting from big plays and sustaining drives. Sack rate per dropback. If sacks remain elevated despite OL upgrades, the system fit or timing is broken. There are also qualitative signals: leadership presence, how he handles third and long and crunch spots, his ability to take short sandwich completions to move the chains, and whether the coaches trust him in late game play calling without needing to shelter him. Finally, the broader take: legacy and markets. Rodgers' Hall of Fame case is not impacted by a single tier adjustment. This is about year-to-year projection. For Steelers fans and evaluators, the crucial question is not, is Rodgers great, but can the team construct the right environment to let him be great enough right now? If the answer is yes, better OL, smart offensive design, reliable WRs, and an opportunistic defense, Rodgers can be a high-performing Tier 2 type starter for a season. If the Steelers accept downgrade risks, poor protection, schematic mismatch, or injuries, the Tier 3 tag will look prescient. In plain terms, Rodgers' drop to Tier 3 is a cautionary note more than a verdict. He can still deliver big results, but the margin for error is smaller. Pittsburgh's choices this summer, personnel, scheme, and injury management, will determine whether that caution was wise or pessimistic. Aaron Rodgers' fall in the latest quarterback tiering feels loud because of who he is: a future Hall of Famer whose very presence reshaped teams and expectations for 2 decades. But the move from Tier 2 to Tier 3 in the Athletics' latest rankings isn't an indictment of Rodgers' career. It's a snapshot of where his game sits right now and how projection models and evaluators are adjusting to age, recent performance, and surrounding circumstances. Rodgers put up solid counting numbers in 2024. Roughly 3,900 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, while facing significant pressure behind a shaky offensive line. He was sacked 40 times, a reminder that context matters. A quarterback's raw totals can look good on paper, even while underlying metrics and physical wear begin to tilt the evaluation pendulum downward. That's exactly what voters appear to have done here. Reward the production, but downgrade projection and upside. Tier 2, where Rodgers sat in 2024, denotes quarterbacks who can carry a team sometimes and can handle pure passing situations in doses. Tier 3, the category Rodgers now occupies, describes a reliable starter who needs help, a stronger run game or stout defense to reach elite heights. The practical difference isn't a hard drop from franchise quarterback to backup, but it does signal reduced ability to single-handedly lift a roster in marginal matchups. Rodgers is now grouped with names like Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua Tagovailoa, quarterbacks with clear upside, but also with question marks that temper expectations. Aging is the main narrative driver. At 41 and coming off seasons with heavy hit totals, Rodgers' mobility, internal clock, and processing speed, the very traits that allowed him to extend plays and make impossible throws, are naturally viewed through a more cautious lens. Teams, analysts, and media voters are increasingly factoring longevity risk and the frequency of pressured late decisions into their rankings. That's not unique to Rodgers. The league is simply less willing to assume repeatability as players enter their early 40s. Pittsburgh's situation matters too. Rodgers joining the Steelers created optimism on day one, but their roster construction, offensive line health, weapons, and a run game that can take pressure off the passer will shape whether Rodgers can rewrite the narrative in 2025. A veteran quarterback of Rodgers' pedigree can absolutely push back against skepticism with strong play and leadership. If the Steelers shore up protection and the supporting cast remains healthy, Rodgers could shift perceptions back toward Tier 2 or higher. Still, the ranking is a useful reminder. Elite QBs aren't judged by single numbers, but by a blend of production, durability, and the ability to carry a team through flaws. Rodgers' drop reflects a market recalibration, not a career erasure. He still has the tools, the instincts, and the experience to be a difference maker. But the margin for error has tightened, both for him and for the Steelers. And the 2025 season will be the clearest evidence of whether this is a temporary dip or a longer-term shift.